So welcome back to this series where we're building a goals tracking app with inside Flutterflow using Supabase as the backend. This particular episode will now focus on going back to Supabase and leveling up your application. Now, if you remember in the previous episodes, we are not tracking the number of tasks that we have associated with a goal, and we're not tracking the number of completed tasks as well. We're going to now empower Supabase to keep track and keep those values updated. So this is a bumper episode. This is part one of a part two in this Supabase section. So without further ado, let's get cracking. So just before we get then started and get into the meat of this particular episode, we are talking about Supabase triggers. Now, of course, what is a Supabase trigger? Well, we know that Supabase uses Postgres under the covers as a database platform, of course. Now, what we're going to do is we're going to be creating a series of functions within inside our application that will be then called and invoked by way of a trigger. So this is something like an insert or an update or a delete on the actual database itself. So, of course, when those events happen, then of course we're going to fire out to these particular functions to then do something with inside our application. So just by way of a little introduction there, a little bit of text there for you to follow. But now let's move on and let's now start getting into the meat of the episode. So here we are then with our application running as things stand at the moment. I've cleared all the data out. I've kept it really, really simple for this particular episode. You can see I've just got one goal created. There is no task behind this goal at this moment in time. So we've got a really, really clean database. Now, if you recall when we built this application in quite a number of episodes ago, we bound these particular values here. This is like this particular number here that is representing the number of tasks that we've got associated with our goal. And this number on the right hand side is the total number of tasks completed, and they've remained 0 throughout this particular series so far. We are now going to level up our application to start getting these numbers now working correctly, and we're not going to do that with inside Flutterflow. We're going to actually do that within Supabase. We're going to sort of empower Supabase to keep those numbers in sync. Okay, so the good thing about that, of course, is we can take some of the complexity away from our actual application, and we can move it over to the database. So with inside Flutterflow, we don't need to worry about it whatsoever. So let's move over to Supabase now and let's walk through that. So here we are then back in Supabase, and let's have a little quick recap of how things are set up. So on the left hand side here, you can see we're in the table editor, and we've got our two tables. We've got our goals and we've got our tasks, and here is the single goal that I've got created, the one that you've just seen with inside the application. There's nothing special about this particular goal. There's nothing set up in particular, but you can see here that we've got the number of tasks as 0, and we've got the number of tasks completed there set as 0 as well. So as we know, they currently do not update, so this is where we're going to start now working in Supabase world to sort of get those in sync. And in the task table, just have a look here, there's nothing being created at all. But of course, as you remember, our goal, we've got this kind of relationship between our tasks and our goal. We know that every goal can have many tasks associated with it. So let's get ourselves then ready then to start working on these so-called triggers, these triggers that's going to now start doing what we want them to do. So with inside Supabase on the left-hand side, you've got this option called database. If you just select database, this will kind of give you kind of some options here on the left-hand side that is kind of all like the interconnecting parts with the database. And on the left-hand side, you can see here we've got triggers and we've got functions and all this magic. We have been in some of these areas before, of course, earlier on in the series, but there's this particular area of functions and triggers that's of the most interest to us in this particular episode. Now, what we're going to do is we're going to create some logic with inside the function section that's going to allow us to then call out from that when certain database operations occur. So these are what triggers are. So a trigger is just, okay, well, soon as something happens with inside the database that we're expecting, like an update of a record or an insert of a brand new record, then we want you to call out to a function, do something for us, and then you'll then should see the output of that particular function within inside the actual database. So just think of it like that. Don't think of it as programming code. When you're in the no code world and you're not a developer or anything like that, or you've got no real skills in programming, then I want you to consider this as more as configuration. Okay, now there's a little bit to learn, but don't worry about it. I'll try to walk that through, and if you're trying to then obviously play this out inside your own code, then hopefully you'll get an idea of how it all kind of hangs together. So let's have a look then at functions on the left hand side. Let's choose function. So at the moment we've got no functions at all within inside our database. We've got a really clean database. So what we can do is we can just hit that option there where it says create new function. Now on the right hand side here, this is where we can now start setting up some details about our function. So of course we've got the name that we're going to use, we've got some other various sort of parameters that we need, but this definition, this area here is the bit where we're going to have to get our hands dirty a little bit and actually write some SQL. So just think of it as SQL, it's just a syntax that we're going to use in order to do what we actually want it to actually do. Okay, so what we're going to do first with inside our database is that we're going to say that when we actually create a brand new task, we're going to want to update the number of tasks that are associated with the goals. We're going to start with part one. That's what we're going to do. We're going to focus on that bit first, and then we're going to then extend out to then do other things as well when tasks get kind of deleted and all that kind of stuff. So let's focus on that first. So I've typed in update goal task count. That's just up there. So update underscore goal underscore task count. We can call it whatever we like, but if you keep it to that for this particular series, if you're following along, then that will be really helpful when you see that reference elsewhere in the application. Now moving down here, we don't need to change any details down here. Everything we're doing here is public. The return type, of course, we do need to change now. Okay, we don't want to return void as in return nothing. We're actually going to want to return a trigger. So just make sure you've got trigger selected, and that's what you need for this particular type of function. Now we're not going to pass any arguments in, that's fine, we don't need to worry about that, but this is where we now need to move into the definition and then start now writing out this particular configuration that we're going to happen in our database. So what we're going to do is everything within inside the definition starts with a begin. Okay, so it's got a begin and it's got an end. So I encourage you to kind of type in begin, and then just down here just type in end, so we know everything inside that is what we're going to end up having to create. Now this is where we now start getting into more database kind of programming world. Okay, so what we're going to first do is we're going to check to see, is this an insert? Okay, are we actually inserting a row into our task database? So the way that we can do that is we can say if, and then we do an open bracket, and then what we do is we type in this this term as in TG underscore OP. And then what that basically is telling us is this is actually something that is local to a Postgres database. This is something that we can actually use to determine what type of operation is being performed within inside our database. So what we're going to do is we're going to say TG underscore OP, and we're going to say is equal, I'm going to do a single quote and then type in insert. Okay, which represents the insert of a record. Okay, we're just going to need to move out of that. Let's just move out of the way here. Type in then, okay, and then just hit the enter. Okay, and then just down below this, we're just going to type in end if, and then just do a single colon there. Okay. So that's also everything we're now going to do is now going to be in between this. Okay, so if we know that if we've got an insert of a record, then we're now going to carry out this particular change to our database. So I'm just going to tab now, and I'm going to type in update. Okay, and then do goals. So all lowercase goals. So goals is the name of our database table. So we know we're going to want to update the goals, and then I'm just going to hit the enter here. Okay, and I'm going to do a set. Okay, and then what I'm going to do is I'm going to do a number underscore task. So if you remember, that is the field that we've actually got within inside our table. That's the column that we have in our table. There's tracking the number of tasks that we've got. We're going to say is equal to the number of tasks again. And so what we're going to do is we're saying we're going to set the field name of number of tasks to be equal to the value that's currently in the task. So for example, if we had 5 tasks in there, that would be 5. But what we're going to then do, we're going to say plus 1. And that's all we simply need to do there. So we're going to say take the number of tasks we've got at the moment, add one to it because we're doing an insert, and that's good enough for what we need to do. And then on the next line, we then need to say where, and then we're going to do ID. So this is the ID of the actual record itself is equal to, and then this term called new. So this is going to be the actual new record that we've actually got created for us. Okay, so you've got old or you've got new, and on this occasion it's going to be new. We're doing an insert, so it's a brand new record. We're going to say new, and then we're going to say dot, and then we're going to say goal underscore ID. So we're going to add one to the tasks where the ID of the actual record is equal to the goal ID. Okay, so those two are going to need to match up. Okay, and then once they do, we then need to do return new, like that. Okay, so we're going to return, so what return new will do, that will return the new record that's just been created for us with that change that's been made. Okay, so once we are ready, we're ready now just to hit the little confirm option that's here just on the bottom right hand side. You just hit confirm, and hopefully with success there, you should see that we get an option that's just up there, that the little notification actually that says that everything is good. Now, of course, if you had an error and you can't quite figure it out, please do check the link in the description, because I've got links that will take you to the actual code examples where you can actually then paste those actually into that box. So hopefully everything should work out for you there. Now, our job is not done. We've created the function. That's the first thing that we need to do. So we have the statement that's there to be run. We now need to actually create the trigger, because the two don't know anything about each other. The database doesn't know nothing about the function yet. So we now need to create that trigger. So on the left hand side here, just choose triggers. So this screen will show some details here that we're not too worried about here. This is all kind of internal to Supabase, but we're going to create a new trigger that's up at the top right here. Hit the little create option, and we're just going to put our name in there. So just for simplicity, just keep the name the same as the actual function that we actually got created. Now the table that we're going to want to now make changes to here is to actually look for the actual task changes. Okay, so just choose task public. So we know that whenever there is any of the following events, which is going to be an insert, update, or delete, this is going to be specific to then the actual task table itself. Okay, so we're going to want to choose insert, update, and delete. So we're going to want to fire this function whenever we do any of these particular events, and the actual trigger type we're going to choose as after. Okay, so you can see here that the trigger fires after the operation has actually completed. So you've got a choice of either before or after, so we're going to do it after. So this, what's important there is that this will actually the actual trigger will fire once the record has actually been written to the database, of course, but you could do it before if you wanted to, but of course it wouldn't make sense in our particular application, but the option is there depending on what you want to do in your own application. So everything else is the same here. The statement though, we just need to change to a row. So this is going to be for every single row that actually takes place for this trigger. It's going to be, the trigger is going to be is going to fire whenever there is a row that is processed. Okay, so just make sure that you just choose a row there. Otherwise, if you don't choose row, you'll find that nothing will happen on the actual database itself. Just down here, we've got the function to trigger. Just choose the function, and we want to choose our update goal task count. So just choose that, and that should be everything that we need. We can just hit the confirm button just down here, and we've got a success message up there. So as you can see here, we've now got this entry that's now being created here. We've got this this function here that's going to be called, this trigger called update goal task count, that's going to fire this particular function, update goal task count here, and it's going to be on the table of tasks, and the events that it's going to fire is on the insert, the delete, and update. Now we have only configured our function to work on the insert at this moment in time. Okay, we're going to come back and do the delete very, very shortly. So let's now just quickly test this out now within inside Flutterflow, just to see if we actually get that number incremented for us, and we'll come back, of course, in the database. We can see that in there as well. So here we are then in run mode in Flutterflow. Let's press our goal. You can see we've got 0 down here. Let's press our goal. Let's create a brand new task. So let's just do test task 1. Let's just put some sample text in there, hit create tasks, and then we've got our entry there. So everything is good there. Let's go back here, and hopefully we should see 1, which is exactly what we do. So let's have a quick look at the database, and let's just see that reflected in there as well. So let's go back here. Let's go back to the tables itself, go to the goals, and let's move across here just for good measure. And you can see here that we've got the number of tasks. Now, of course, if I was to go back into Flow now and actually try deleting that task, then this is going to remain as 1. So let's get that fixed up right now within inside our function. So now let's move back over to the database option here. Let's go to functions and let's go to the right hand side here and choose the edit function option, and we're back into that familiar screen that you would have seen previously. Now this is where we need to make the change. So we know we're handling our insert, so we now need to just go onto the particular end of the semicolon there and just hit the enter, and let's now put another little check in here, and we're going to type in this. We're going to type in ELS as in for else, and then we're going to say if, okay, and then we're just going to do the open bracket again, and we're going to say TG underscore op. So we're going to look for this next operation, which is going to be then a delete. Okay, let's just move across here to the then and just type in then, and then we're just going to hit enter. And we're just now going to make some changes here. So of course, if we're now deleting, we're now going to want to do pretty well much the opposite. We're going to want to say set the number of tasks equal the number of tasks minus 1. So let's quickly type that code in now. Update goals, set the number of tasks equal number of tasks minus 1. Where ID equals, and we can say old here, okay, it doesn't really make any difference because we're going to be deleting the row anyway, so you can say old, and then we're just going to say ID, and that's all that we need to do. So we're going to say, and we're going to set the number of tasks equal number of tasks minus 1, where the ID of our record equals the goal ID. Okay, and that's all that we need to do. So I think that is pretty well much it. We can actually just here, we can just say return old. Actually, it's no problem at all. Just type in return old, and that should be all that we actually need to do now. So we can now hit the confirm as the option here. Just hit confirm. And that's good for us. Now we can actually go back into Flow now. We can actually try deleting that goal, and we should see that reduction. So let's give that a go now. So I'm in Flow here. Let's click on our test goal. Let's now actually delete it and go back, and we can see it's 0 or 0. So everything is kicked into life for us. We now are handling both insert and deletions, which is fantastic. But again, our work is not done. There's more work we need to do in Supabase. So let's go and do that now. So of course, we're now tracking the actual tasks themselves, but what about the completed tasks, of course? So we're inside Flow. When we actually then mark our task as completed, we're going to want to obviously say that we've got 1 of 1 or 2 of 2 completed. So in order for us to do that, we need to create some more functions and of course another trigger as well. So let's move back into Supabase here, and you can see I've got function selected here on the left hand side. Let's move up to create new function. So I've called this one update underscore goal underscore tasks underscore completed underscore count. Okay, so you want to try and keep that the name the same if you're following along in this particular episode. And of course, down here, we're going to want to do the same thing we did before. We're going to want to return a trigger itself. And then in the definition, this is where we now need to start adding in some further details here. So as we did previously, we have a begin and an end always, and then within inside here, we're now going to do some various checks. So I'm just going to tap here. I'm going to say if, and then we're going to say TG underscore op, okay, equals single quote. And on this occasion, it's going to be an update, of course. So we did inserts and deletes previously. This is going to be an update. And then we just want to then put then, and then just go down here and just do an end if like that. We're just going to keep it like that for now. And now with inside here, we're now going to want to now carry out this this further change. So this time we need to do if, okay, again, and on this occasion we're going to say the new record, okay, so this is the new database update, we're going to say is complete, and if it's equal to true, so if we mark this as complete, we then need to do this. So just type in then, and then just down here, we're now going to just going to put an else here. So we're going to say else if. Okay, and we'll come back to that in just a moment. So we're going to go with inside here, and we're going to type in update goals, okay, and we're going to say we're going to set the number of tasks underscore completed. So this is our column within inside our database. Number of tasks, oh, actually just called complete actually, equals then the number of tasks complete plus 1. Okay, and then we're going to do what we did before. We're going to say where ID equals the new record, and then we're going to say goal underscore ID. As simple as that. So we're going to say if this new record is marked as complete, we're going to then want to set the number of tasks complete to be equal to the number of tasks complete that we got there at that point plus 1. So we're just going to add additional 1 to it. Now we need to work on this little bit just below as well, on this ELSIF. So it's very, very similar to this, and we're just going to be very descriptive here. So we're just going to say, with an open bracket again, we're going to say new.complete, and on this time, we're going to say false. And then we're going to say then, okay, and then just going to move down another line here, just press enter here, and we just need to just give ourselves some space here. I'm just going to choose and type in end if again, so we've got like an end if with inside an end if, and we're just going to do the opposite. Okay, so we're just going to probably just copy this. Actually, I can just do a Control C or an Apple C on that, and I'm just going to paste that in there, and we're just going to do -1. Okay, so we're just going to reduce it. Okay, so if it's false, we're going to then set it to -1. And then down here, we just want to do then a return new. So we're going to return the new record. And of course, just down here as well, we're going to do a return new. So just to summarize then, what this is just doing is this is just going to look for an update, okay? And if it is an update, we're checking to see if we're passing in from flood or flow the actual value of complete is equal to true, for example. And then we're just going to increment the number of tasks that we got completed by 1. But of course, if we pass in a false, because sometimes in our user application, somebody might actually mark a task as incomplete. They may reverse it from being complete to incomplete. And of course, we're going to want to do the reverse of that as well. So that's all that we need to do for now. We will need to come back to this very, very shortly and make some more changes, but that pretty well much should get us up and running with inside our application. So just hit confirm, and hopefully, fingers crossed, there'll be no errors. There isn't. And then, of course, we now need to create that actual trigger itself. So let's probably just copy this. Let's just copy this to the clipboard here, the name, because we're going to use that. We're going to go over to triggers, and we're going to go up to create new trigger. We're just going to paste that value in there. We're going to choose the table that we're interested in, which of course is tasks, just there. Now we are doing an update, so just choose update on its own. That's all we're going to be doing here. And we're going to do again the after. So after the actual database event has occurred, and we're going to go to orientation, we're going to choose row, and then here we just got to simply choose the function that we've actually just created, which is this one here. Just choose that, and we can hit confirm. And then fingers crossed we have everything that we need. So we've got this particular one here, which is going to play out here. We've got, and although we're not doing anything with the update in here, it doesn't matter. We've got the update here as well, so we'll just follow on into this particular trigger as well, and then carry out that particular function. So I think we can now go back into Flow and try this out. So here we are then back in test mode. We've got our goal in here. It has no tasks associated with it. So let's just hit that. Let's create a quick test task here. Test task 1. Just put some rubbish in there. And let's add another one in there as well. Test task 2, just some more rubbish. Hit create task. We've got 2 tasks. If I go back here, we should see correctly that we have the 2 tasks. If I just go back here, let's now try completing this task. So just hit the little complete option, go back, and we've got 2 of 1. So we've got 1 completed. Fantastic. Let's just, for good measure, just mark that one as complete, and we have 2 of 2, which is great. Now, of course, we do. This is great. This is all playing out exactly as we would like it in a more of a happy day scenario. But of course, we would have some issues with our application now if we try kind of breaking some rules. So for example, if I click on this particular option here and I delete a completed task, so if I hit the little delete and go back, you're going to see that this now still says 2 with only 1 task in there. So the single task is correct, but we still are marking a completed task inside our inside our actual database. So that's not a behavior that we're going to want. So we're going to have to make some fixes with inside Supabase to support that. Now we're going to carry that out inside the next episode, because I'm sure that your minds are probably absolutely exploding this particular point. But if you've got this far and your application is working exactly how this is behaving, then fantastic. Well done for getting this far. Well, I hope you found that really useful. It just goes to show that actually you don't always need to put the power with inside the client side application. In this case, a Flow application, you can actually empower your database, your backend, to start doing some of these more sort of data transformations that you don't need to do in the front end. So I hope you found that useful. We're going to move into part 2 next in this particular mini series with inside a series where we're working with inside Supabase. We'll start correcting some of those little nuances with inside the application as well. So please, as always, do like the video and please do subscribe to the channel if you love following along, and I look forward to seeing you in the next episode.